Yes, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Happy New Year. As I said on Instagram last night, those who celebrate, not everyone does. My year of birth starts with a 19, so I didn't go out and I did absolutely jack shit last night. What about yourself? Did you go out? Was it a fucking massive disappointment? Did you pay 4 times the price for a taxi? I'm old enough to remember like I ended up going to a house party for the Millennium New Year's Eve. But I had been going out because you could just about get away with it back then, being like 16 and going out. So it was like, I'd been going out to pubs and somehow getting about a 50% hit rate, getting in and out of clubs and that. But New Year's Eve, I remember just everyone jacked the prices up. Pubs started charging for entry and all that sort of stuff. And then before you know it, it's the norm now on New Year's Eve. There was a threshold with the Millennium that passed, and then it's never really gone back. It's just a fucking shit night out, innit, though? Innit? I think people who go out on New Year's Eve and think it's a good night didn't go out the rest of the fucking year, I'm certain. Anyway, what are we talking about today, Steve? We're talking about what appears to be the imminent arrival of some level of strategy. Now, there's a right load of people in the comments that are definitely going to lose their minds, and there's probably a point to it, but I'm not necessarily for or against it. I would say I'm more like, okay, let's see where this goes. There's a couple of truths about Manchester United that have appeared in the last decade. We have prioritised signing names over the correct jigsaw piece that fits a system for a manager that we're trying to provide for. We have given salaries to people. I mean, it feels like it started with Sanchez, but then what happens is kind of what happened at Barcelona, where you just end up on this never-ending spiral. The wages never go down. They always go up, right? So when you open, I would describe it as like, if you just squirted out all your fucking toothpaste into the sink, you're never getting it back in the fucking tube. Like, once it's out, it's out. You can say sorry all you fucking like. It ain't going to get back in. So I feel like United have kind of gone down the road. And I thought this might not be a brand new Brailsford strategy. And it's going to get assigned to him because he's now this marginal gains kind of geezer. So it will come under his sort of remit, and the success or failure of it will be attributed to him. Whether or not this was a decision that had already been made in the summer, though, I think it's got the potential that was the case. So back in the summer, when we allowed David De Gea to leave rather than extending his contract, I thought that was a move in the direction of, we're not giving out silly wages anymore. Now, Marcus's wage has been reported. I have no idea if those wages are true, but I would say the price that he went for, I think he probably negotiated at the perfect time for him. Whether or not it was a perfect time for the club, we've got 6 months of this season to see whether or not it was a good decision or a bad decision. But right now it doesn't look like a good decision. On the back of a 30-goal season, you're going to pay whatever because it trumps, the 80, 90, 100 million pound signing that you would have to make to replace him. So this new strategy, I think, is an attempt for Manchester United to claw back some control. So I would not be surprised to see reduced terms offered to the likes of Casemiro, to the likes of Varane, which is reportedly what's happening. Varane's now at the stage where United haven't exercised his automatic 1-year extension, which means that he is now free to talk to foreign clubs and move there for free at the end of his contract in the summer. AKA the Bosman. Doesn't get called a Bosman anymore, does it? I think out of respect we should call it that. But he may be offered reduced terms. Now, depending on what he is told his role is in the team and the plans that he is told, he might actually sign those reduced terms. I think probably not, but he might. I think he might sign those reduced terms. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, put it that way. Either way, I don't think he's definitely going, and I don't think he's definitely staying. I think it is completely up in the air, and if it's to be believed that he's fell out with the manager, I would say the probabilities line up on the fact that he'd probably leave. If it's not true that he didn't fall out with the manager and he was out of the team for some other reasons, then I think you've got half a chance. But right now, we have no idea. It's entirely speculation, and I wouldn't like to hang my hat on either way because I have no fucking information either way. But that is what I think is going to potentially be on the cards. And like I said, part of me thinks it's a good thing. The only reason I don't think it's necessarily a good thing is because I can see this is the fucking Glazers trying to claw back a little bit of cash. Whether or not that's the case or not, it will be treated a little bit like that. But on the other hand, we want a well-run football club. Now, I'm old enough. I've got a grey in the beard to prove it. Remembering the fucking furore of Roy Keane. So there were players playing for fucking Middlesbrough. Fabrizio Ravanelli springs to mind for one, that were earning twice as much as the likes of Roy Keane were back in the 90s. Liverpool were notoriously good payers. Chelsea became in and were good payers. I'm trying to think of the fuck else. I want to say Spurs were good players. Newcastle were good payers. So all of those teams were throwing money around, and United didn't. United traded and attracted signings on the back of, you will win things here. And actually what that brought in was the right stuff. It brought in a lot of the right stuff. Players that actually wanted to come in and win things. We signed the likes of Teddy Sheringham, Dwight York, Andy Cole, Roy Keane on that sort of basis. I think Roy Keane actually has put it out in public that he signed a wage reduction to come to Manchester United. I'm sure he said it was a wage reduction to come to Manchester United, and he didn't even think about it. Or it was certainly less than what Blackburn had offered him, if it wasn't a direct reduction from what he was earning at Forest. But what that did was it attracted the right stuff. And when you extrapolate the last 10 years, the Alexis Sanchez, he's the fucking fairy on top of the Christmas tree, isn't he? In terms of like the beacon of came for the fucking money. But I'm sure there's countless others. I just can't think of them off the top of my head, of people who came for a payday and delivered absolutely fuck all. And I think if you flip it around the other way and you find and sign the right stuff, and you then, like, look at Manchester City now. Players probably don't have to sign for 400 grand a week to go to Manchester City because they'll want to play for Pep and they'll want to be involved in winning things. And when you say, look, we'll give you a cheeky little rise on what you're earning at your current club, and then there's loads of bonuses involved, people will go, give me the paper. But yeah, like the likes of, did we need to offer Jadon Sancho the reported 375 grand a week? He'd had an incredible run at Dortmund, but like once he signs a 375 grand a week contract, guess what? The next one needs to be 5 or more. That's how it works. Every contract, players are gonna go in and demand a 20% raise, especially when they sign that contract in the first part of their 20s. You're projecting him earning somewhere in the region of 800,000 to $1 million. Now, if you're projecting someone's gonna earn that much, well, they've got to be in the same sort of ballpark as an Erling Haaland, who's reportedly on 800, 900 grand a week. Okay, give me 50 goals a season, and we'll sign that check. No one would have. Does anyone sit here and go, Haaland shouldn't get that money? Nah, because he fucking scores a fuckload of goals, and because he scores a fuckload of goals, he gets rewarded with a fat salary. People only have an issue with it when it's like Alexis Sanchez, and you're the highest paid player in the Premier League, and you've delivered 4 fucking goals or whatever the fuck it was. That's when people see their ass, man. Liam says Ed Woodward would be all over Dybala. Yeah, some people sent me that yesterday and said, what do you think about Dybala? I think Ed Woodward would sign him, and therefore I would say no. Adam says anyone scores a fuckload of goals for City. That's true, but I also think it is what it is. Darren says, remember the stats Jadon was putting up, best next to Messi. That's true. That is entirely true, but you still could have, I think he was on 125 grand a week or 70 grand a week or something like that at Dortmund. Could you not have doubled his wage or even tripled his wage? It was still nearly half of what we would have ended up paying him. Do you know what I mean? Wasn't it a one-horse race? Wasn't we the only team in for him? Left-handed Lee says we ain't got top players, and that's another problem as well. Is when you do start getting top players, you can't come in and go, right, we're going to pay you the same as. I mean, look, we give our backup goalkeeper a couple of years ago, Dean Henderson, when Dean Henderson signed his contract. I might have got this wrong, but the spirit is there. He was like the 4th or 5th best paid goalkeeper in the league. I think it was like De Gea, Ederson, Alisson, fucking, I think Leno, maybe at Arsenal potentially at the time, and then fucking Dean Henderson. What the fuck? What the fuck? And then, we're doing shit like that all the fucking time. I think Johnny Evans has just shown you don't need to pay someone 250 grand a week. The right stuff will come at the right fucking price. We spoke to Johnny Evans in the summer. He didn't have a fucking clue what he was going to say. And I'm sure if they offered him 20 grand a week, he'd have been like, cool, yeah, let's have it. Liam says, 30% of my wage at work is made up of bonuses. Productivity is mad. Yeah, I can imagine it probably does have a fucking big impact on that. Parthiv says, how's our dribbling goalkeeping doing? Well, he's still got one of the highest save percentages in the league. How about we reduce the fucking number of shots he has to deal with and he's not going to look so fucking mental? Keith says, FFP is probably another reason that we want to reduce wages. Yeah, I think that is a massive factor in it. But it goes back. I forgot to mention this earlier when I was going on about some of the poor decisions in terms of offering the wages, but also poor decisions in terms of the money. Well documented as of Laurie's fantastic article in The Athletic last week, where it was like, we value a player at X, somehow we end up paying Y. No, it was like our entire negotiation with Leicester for Harry Maguire, which looks so bad in hindsight. We looked at what happened with Van Dijk and we went, well, if we just pay a fortune for a centre-half, it'll transform us. It wasn't the case, obviously. But Harry Maguire was a 40 or 50 million pound centre-half and probably would have been all right at that. Limited, pretty good at defending his box, very good at defending his box, excellent in the air. For some reason, never translated that to being like a goal-scoring a corner goal-scoring defender, but it is what it is. But he was never £80 million. Yet we give him £80 million, and I am certain that went with a I'm worth £80 million contract to go with it. It must have been in the 250 sort of range. Had to have been. Made him one of the highest paid players at the club. It just is indicative of how poorly run the club is, and I think there'll probably be some teething problems, right? Dave Brailsford and the crew that's being assembled by Sir Jim are going to fuck some things up. But I'm kind of just excited at the fact that there's going to be some strategy. Because it feels like our strategy is we open up the laptop on the first day of the transfer window and go, right, have you got that list? Rather than like a continual evolving shortlist. And I've said this for a long fucking time. And if I can think of it, why can't somebody at Old Trafford put this into action? I'm not saying let's send rockets to the fucking moon or Mars here. I'm saying when we appointed Jose Mourinho, I said this. Once you appoint Mourinho, you know the clock is ticking. He will not be here a decade. He's going to go at some point. So you might as well start preparing, and you might as well do it now for Erik ten Hag. There's a good chance Erik ten Hag might go before the end of the season, right? I think that's fair to say. New ownership, and the results have been pretty fucking bad. Now, if they decide to get rid of Erik ten Hag, then they have to start now looking for his replacement. But that's what I wanted us to do when we took Mourinho on. I wanted us to have a short list of 5 managers that we have pre-identified, that you've spoken to people, you've got references, you've talked to them openly, you've spoke to them under the table, you've spoke to people about them without their knowledge, you spoke to people about them with their knowledge. You've asked them to provide a presentation, you've asked them to provide what they would look at for a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year evolution of the team. And that's important. And look, you're going to get like Jude Bellingham's come up, where if someone were to give a presentation a few years ago, okay, maybe all he might have done, actually, having identified him. But, when he was a 16-year-old, not many people would have been putting Jude Bellingham as a starter in any of their presentations, and players of that caliber can change your plans. But if you look at the Manchester United squad now, you know that within a couple of years, Luke Shaw's retiring a change because of his age. You might have a goalkeeper for 5-6 years minimum, right? But Varane is going to need a change. Casemiro is going to need a change. You are going to need another striker of some sort. Can you identify those players now? Can you maybe speculate on what you're like? If I'm Erik ten Hag right now, or if I'm Dave Brailsford and I'm the people working at Manchester United, I'm going to say, right, listen, Eric, this is your team right now and it's not fucking working. What do you want the team to look like in 2 and 3 years' time? Or even 1, 2 and 3 years' time? So at the end of next summer, at the start of next Premier League season, what does your team look like? Give me your first 11 and your backup 11. Right, okay. Do we think that's strong enough to win the league? No, I don't think it's strong enough to win the league either. What's it missing? It's missing this, this and this. Right, okay. Can we get them under the budget for the second season? No. It might take us 3 summers to do it. Okay, we'll take it 3 summers to do it. You've got 3 summers. This is your plan. We'll see at the end of 3 summers. You've either got a league title or you've got your P45. And I think that would be a perfectly fucking valid thing to do. We'll provide you the players. We will help identify them. We will do our own scouting and we'll come back and tell you, look, actually, we've heard this player, bit of a fucking bell, bit of a drinking problem. We're not going to sign him. Can you come up with someone else? Or do you want the scouting department to come up with someone that we think fits the system? That's how you're supposed to work with these teams. And then you've got to go, okay, well, is there anyone in the youth team that could do that job? That should be the first question. Anytime we go into a transfer window, I want a new striker. Is there anyone in the first team that can do a job? No. What about the lads on loan? Any of them can do the job? No. Are we sure? Can we send one of them out on loan for 3 months and find out? It saves us 50 million. These are the sort of fucking strategic decisions which leave us coming into a January when we've spent $1 billion in a decade and need a refit of the squad. Like, it's pure fucking financial mismanagement. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're incapable of negotiating transfers to get better deals, either because we let people know that they're our first choice, or we let people know how much we've got to spend. No, maybe coming into this window, we're all not expecting anything. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we can go into it like we got no money, we're not going to sign anyone, we'll see how it goes, we might have to sell some players. Then that means you're in a strong position when it comes to selling people, and you're in a strong position when it comes to buying people. You can go and sit down with fucking, I was going to say Nice then, but that's a bit of a thing you want to. You can sit down with like a Marseille or a Leverkusen or something like that and you say, listen, you've seen the newspaper, we haven't really got a lot of money. We could do this deal at 22 million. What do you say? And, you know, rather than fucking Ed Woodward telling people we can do things that others only dream of in the transfer market and they go, oh yeah, fuck face, 75 fucking million. Don't talk to me. And this is how you end up in the situations that we found ourselves in, where we just simply cannot maintain. Like, when you look at Manchester City's transfer dealings, now, there's 115 reasons why some of those might not be completely fucking accurately reported. But when you look at the prices that they pay for some players, you go, how the fucking hell's he got him? Everybody knew how good he was. Why have they only got him? Why have they only paid 40 million? Now, latterly, they've spent big on a couple of players and it hasn't quite worked. Maybe there's a lesson in that. But it's just about, can you be strategic and have an overarching plan, and then in the background go to work on the small things, that these fucking marginal gains that everyone keeps talking about. Brian says, need to start buying players that want to play and fight for the badge. It should be an honour and privilege to play for this club. Totally agree. I think George Graham said this to Alex Ferguson at some point, which is a great line, and it's applicable at all levels of football, is that a player has to see signing for your club as a step up. If he thinks he's doing you a favour, he will play like he's doing you a favour. And I think that's a great fucking line. Abhinav Verma with a super chat. Thank you, brother. It says it cost India 75 million to put a rocket to the moon. You could have had a league title and a United flag on the moon for the amount we've spent. Oh, yeah. And spray painted it red and said, fuck you, Blue Moon. Love it. Luca Brazzi says, surely Brailsford and co have learnt from mistakes they made at Nice. They seem to have put a lot of decorations right last season. Yeah, Nice have started well this season, to be fair to them. It's an easy league to get that done, but maybe that's a little bit of practice for what's going to come with United. And maybe you've got the dual edge of, like, I don't know how this, is going to work out with them owning Nice and owning United, but I'll tell you what it does do. It allows Nice to ring up and ask how much somebody is. Who are you phoning from? Nice, 12 million. Who are you phoning from? United, 35 million. Well, you said it was 12 to Nice, and you go, oh shit, yeah, I did. And you go, okay, we'll sign him for Nice, we'll keep him there a year, and then we'll bring him over to United. Why the fuck not? It's literally what the Red Bull group was doing. Why the fuck not? Danny says, it's going to take a few seasons for things to look tidy at United, even if the new leadership is taking the club in the right direction. Please be patient. Yep, I agree. MK655 says, Steve Keno for Ten Hag's job to fix player discipline and attitude once Radcliffe sorts out recruitment. Why do you think Roy Keane would do a better job? I would argue, like, from what I can hear, Ten Hag isn't the most people person in the world, and he's quite blunt with stuff. What makes you think Roy Keane's going to be any better? Ten Hag is cutting about the place trying to sort the recruitment out, and as far as I can see, he looks like he's doing an okay job at it. People are seeing their ass with it. It's probably a good thing. Do you think Roy Keane would be better or worse at that? It might just be the same. It might just be the same. And yes, Tadebo's obviously been linked with a move to Spurs. If there's any desire for United to get him, then I'm sure United will get him. And I'm sure we'll be offered favourable terms. And by favourable terms, I don't think that means that we would get him cheaper than if he would go to Spurs. I think if it was the same, if we were just told, look, it's agreed 37 million, 41 million to Spurs, we can just pay the same price and then take him, is my opinion. And then I guess it's up to the player where he wants to go. Zuhaib says, Kambala can save us 50 million. Well, yeah, maybe. Or he can at least be a backup. I always thought Mengi could be a backup, and he's gone into the Premier League this season and proved it, in my opinion. Ant with a super chat, thank you, brother, says, criminal that we haven't set up a real network in South America. So much talent, so much fire, such great value. No brainer, surely, or just me. We had it. Welcome to Glazonomics 2005. United had a deal with Palmeiras. We had a deal with, I can't remember the fucking name, someone in Scandinavia. We had a deal with Antwerp, and we had a deal with, I want to say Zaragoza, but I could be wrong. United had strategic partnerships across the fucking world with clubs that were going to do a little bit like what Vitesse do for Chelsea. Not quite the same level as what City do because that's shared ownership. But there were deals where they would take players in locally and we would help, and there was like a bit of a shared scouting network. And then the Glazers came in and just fucking torpedoed it. The same way they did the women's team, and the same way they did any sort of fucking ambition we had as a football club. Listen, you roll that back to 2005. Martin Edwards had this fucking club in a great spot. Jabak says, my biggest concern is that we need to stabilise the ship in terms of FFP before we can spend big money on players. This squad needs investments now. Yeah, now what we've got to do is try and get good money for our players, and that sometimes means, or very often is going to mean, that the manager is going to lie to us in press conferences. And I got no problems with it whatsoever because it's the game. You got to remember, the game is the game. The game isn't to tell the truth in press conferences. The game is to win football matches for Manchester United. And that extrapolates into a million things. Winning football matches for Manchester United requires lying in press conferences. They don't owe us the truth. They don't. Fuck the media, innit? So, like, when they say, are you trying to sell Anthony Martial? Why would I sell Anthony Martial? And then everyone loses their fucking mind at a quote from the manager who says, why would I sell Anthony Martial? But here's the thing. When he says, oh my God, get this fucking bum out of my club, then you don't get offered any money for him. And then if you don't get offered any money for him, you don't get anything to top your pot up so you can go and buy players that actually want to turn out and play for Manchester United. It's all fucking linked. So let him come and lie to us. I want him to go, do you know what? Donny van der Beek, best player in the world. Hasn't worked out for him in Manchester. He doesn't like Greg's. So if he goes somewhere else, he'll smash it. That's what he needs to come out and say. And it needs to be ridiculous at times when people go, what the fuck are you talking about? But it doesn't matter. His job is to win football matches for United, and that means he's got to lie to us. And I'm here for it. Andy Knight, Happy New Year. Keep up the good work. Have a pint on me. Cheers, brother. Mohammed says, boys joining Man U Academy cannot aspire to make the first team any longer. Well, that's not fucking true for starters, is it? I mean, Jesus Christ, didn't we have 8 academy players in the team the other day against Villa? Fuck me, mate. Mazak, I'm not even attempting that one, says, am I worried that Potter or Southgate are next on the list of managers when Ten Hag is sacked? Yeah. I would be fucking wounded. My default. Paula says, Stephen, can your New Year's resolution, can see your New Year's resolution isn't to stop swearing. Is it fuck? And I always have the same thing. No resolutions, just goals. GC with a super chat. Thank you, brother. Says, needs to stop Sir Alex Ferguson. Jobs for mates. Jones, Fletcher, Ollie, Carrick, Giggs, Phelan. Just calling back coaches from Fergie's time. It's a joke. Inexperienced staff equals the problem. On one hand, I would say yes, but on the other hand, I would say no. So I think Giggs had been groomed for the job for a while. Mike Phelan was literally an assistant manager at the club through our most successful years. You can't call him inexperienced. That's ridiculous. Fletcher, still don't know what he does. Phil Jones, he's coaching under 18s. There's no harm in that whatsoever. Ollie, I don't think Ollie was the downright failure that he's being made out to be. And he chose Carrick, who's gone on and proved that he was doing bits in the Championship. So I understand what you're saying, but I also do think that there's something in people who've been there and done it. I think there's something about them being successful that I think is a good thing. And you can say, well, did we have that in the 90s? Yeah, we did have that in the 90s. We had Brian Kidd, who has gone on and proved that he's not a very good manager, but he was a fantastic assistant manager under Sir Alex Ferguson. Brian Kidd, European Cup winner, 1968. That was jobs for the boys. He oversaw our first Premier League win in 26 years. Nobby Stiles, he was one of the academy coaches that brought through the likes of Giggs and Beckham and Butt and Scholes. That was jobs for the boys, massively so. There's countless examples of a lot of the ex-players. I want to say Sammy Mack was involved in coaching at some point with a class of 92. This happens, and it's been proven to be successful when it has happened. So I can't necessarily agree that you can just have a blanket, no ex-players are allowed to work at the club anymore. I don't think that's the case. I think there's some that have proven themselves to be really good. And even if they're not doing bits elsewhere, I think they could still do bits for the club. Tom says, Happy New Year, Steve, love the channel. Realistically, how many players do we get out during this window? I think you could get 3 or 4 out. I think Anthony Martial's a dead man walking. I think Donny van der Beek probably follows him straight out the door. I don't think you see Varane go. I think it'll be summer, probably on a free. I don't know, it could be loads. Could be loads. It depends who's on the big dough in it. Will we see Sancho go? I don't know if there's loads that would definitely take him. Notch says, Ollie said, I want Alexis to stay. He's mint to the media, and then fucked him off. He did exactly the same with Ashley Young. He was like, oh, what a pro. Get out the fucking door. Didn't he say the same about Fellaini as well? Or did I imagine that? Or was Fellaini when he walked in, he went, anyway, whoa, don't you sit down. Off you fucking pop. Debs with a super chat says, Ragnick said United needs open heart surgery. Brailsford's all about the small incremental changes. How aligned do you think these two viewpoints are? One sounds quite drastic and one feels like it's not going to make a lot of change, but I reckon they probably are quite aligned. And I genuinely think that, I think one of the reasons I was so excited about what Ralph Rangnick could bring is his analytical eye in building a club. He has been a coach, but I think his skill lies in club building. And I would like him to say, I would love Dave Brailsford to actually go, yeah, do you know who we're going to get actually to be a part of this fucking front of house team? Ralph Rangnick. Because he's seen the worst of it. He's probably fed us with the media. He fired a couple of shots at some of the pundits, and I think he would go to work and get it done. Tino says, how many academy players should realistically step into the first team squad next season? I think there's 2 that stand out, but I think they're both very physically immature still. So I would say I'd go get them on their toes and see what they want to do. Ralph is manager of Austria. Manchester United come calling and you find time. Also, he is he's manager of Austria. It is a part-time job, international football management. It's a fucking part-time job. Let's have it right. So I think he could find a time to also help out at Manchester United, or even just advise, because that's all he'd be doing. He's not going to be rolling his sleeves up and actually getting it done. I think he could. I think he could get in the mix and make it happen, genuinely. Ed says, giving Ineos 2 years tops to sack or hire the right people and shift the majority of this squad off the books. Otherwise, I'm turning on them too. What sort of fucking attitude is that? Let's just fucking wait and see it happen. Took Fergie 7. And he was the best that's ever done it. So why would you demand other people do it in a quarter at a time? Acorn says, is Reguilon staying or is Malacia close to return? Couldn't tell you, mate. Colin says, I don't think Roundup understood how the English media would be in terms of overanalyzing everything you say in press conferences, and that's why the Glazers didn't want him hanging around. Well, I think the Glazers, like we saw a report, didn't we, that the Glazers only like to get good news, which means they must get fuck all United news ever. And certainly nothing about them. And I reckon him coming out as a manager, because you can't miss when the manager, like, you can hide what the fans are saying, you can hide what the, you know, what's being said on Twitter or on YouTube or in the fanzines, you can hide all of that shit. But I think that if you fucking hide what the manager's saying in press, you can't hide that. You can't hide that. And Lollipop says, no, Ralph told too much truth. But is it a problem? You can't pretend that everything's fucking rosy at United, because it ain't. So tell the truth. You can't fix us until you're honest about the failures and the situation that we find ourselves in. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Cheers, as always, for tuning in. I've got another super chat here. I'm going to read that and then I'm going to get off. GC says, Gulf states now own 28 clubs in countries like UK, India, Japan, USA, Australia. Maybe the Super League was a test case for legal precedent for the Saudi Global League. 28 owned clubs is a lot. I think it's coming, regardless. And I don't think it's a good thing for the sport, but I'm not in charge, unfortunately. Anyways, take it easy, everyone. Set some goals and absolutely fucking obliterate them this year. And have fun while you're doing it. Okay? See you in a bit. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right